Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, welcome to quarantine, I think day 7 now. It's kind of all blending together for me. What I thought I would do today, because I know so many of you guys are at home and don't have a ton of stuff to do, because if you're in quarantine like I am, what I thought I would do is I get so many questions throughout the months and years that I don't always get a chance to answer them because of being busy, model making, running the store, things like that. Well, now I have a little bit of time on my hand to answer all the questions that you guys have, or at least the most popular ones. And I've compiled them right here. We'll put them all together and kind of answer some of those questions. We won't spend much time on this, but this is a question that I got a ton of questions on, is the Stormtrooper behind me. And this is actually a costume on a mannequin. This is not a statue. And my son and I built this one up, my younger son and I. It is not going to jump out and move, because if it starts moving, and you need to tell me, because I need to get the heck out of this room, because it is just a statue inside there. And that's what this is here. This is actually another helmet. We have another one of those uniforms that we need to build up. Just haven't had a chance to, although we probably will start it now that we have, all this quarantine time. So it is a thing that is fully wearable. I've worn this in the past. Had a couple of photos of me in it from when we lived in my old house. I got to find those right now. I haven't been able to find them yet, but if I do find them, I'll put them in this video right here. Also, lots of questions about these. These were the Stormtrooper blasters that I showed in that very first video when we're walking around inside the playroom here. These are completely handmade too. They're just made out of PVC, some metal plates, and then some resin parts that we ordered up. And like this scope. This is actually a scope off of a Sherman tank, believe it or not, that they mounted on here. And then the rest of the parts, the real things in Star Wars were made out of Sterling machine guns. So someone had made copies of the magazine port for the Sterling and then cut down a small little magazine for it. So that's a resin cast of that for Sterling. And this is all just like plastic parts, PVC, and just little odds and ends, whatever I could come up with to make a Stormtrooper blaster. And that is true of this too. This is just made out of a big piece of PVC and all kinds of other little pieces of wood and stuff that we made to look like a Lewis machine gun. And this is one that some of the Stormtroopers carried in the early movies. And we've even wired this up with a little trigger. I put a light in there. So I had a lot of time on my hand back then, so I thought this is a perfect idea to make up a big Stormtrooper blaster. So that was the other question about Star Wars, and then we won't talk any more Star Wars. Favorite character in Star Wars? I got that quite a bit. Obviously, I love the Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, and hey, who doesn't like Baby Yoda, or the child we're calling him? Love that character. I also noticed that Sideshow has a 1-to-1 scale coming out that hopefully won't be delayed too long. I'd love to see that thing as well. Okay, the first modeling question we're going to answer is going to be on clear coats, whether it be dull coat or gloss coat, made out of lacquer, acrylic, enamel, all the different things that you can make clear coats out of. What do I use and in what way do I use them? First and foremost, I like using dull coat, which Testors 1260, or to me as TS80, which is their flat coat, right out of the can, because it's very easy. Lacquer can make a mess in your airbrush and require a lot of stinky lacquer thinners and things like that to clean it. So for example, when we built the KV-1, we put our paint job on, and then I will spray the entire model with 2 really light coats of Testors 1260 dull coat to seal in our paint job. And what that's going to do is when we go to put our weathering on top of it, it is not going to damage our paint underneath. And you can use Tamiya's TS80 also, but you got to watch out with TS80 because it's very hot and it would eat through these decals on the side here too. So you could put it down if there was no decals on it. It is a very nice dull coat and it'll cover nicely and makes things very flat, but it is hot, will eat through decals. The other thing I like to do too is if we use the Testors dull coat and after we put all of these the washes and weathering on it, a lot of times I've been using the Ammo by MIG flat coat, or they have 2. They have ultra flat and then flat, and I'll usually go back and forth between those 2. And those are in acrylic. They're airbrush ready. You put them right in your airbrush, and I'll give it a nice little mist coat over that, and that kind of blends things out, but it's not so hot like a regular lacquer would be. So those are the three I like to use the most. When it comes to glosses, when we do like a car or a motorcycle, something like that, I will use the TS13 Tester's Clear Coat. It's really nice, and you can do real light coats on it and sand in between coats and get a nice deep finish, for modeling. Obviously, there's a lot of guys in cars that will do, automotive clears, but they're mixing of hardeners and catalysts and all this other stuff that just, you got to worry about it ruining your airbrush if you let it sit up too long in there. And I'm like, TS13 right out of the can. For what I'm doing, I'm happy with it. And I'm like, that's what we're going to go ahead and use. Next question we're going to answer is, what is my favorite type of thing to build, or favorite model build and type? So basically, there was like 15 different questions that came about that. We're going to kind of blend them all together. Obviously, I build a lot more armor than anything else. I love cars, I love airplanes, I love ships, and I love tanks, and sci-fi stuff as well. But I have the most fun building armor kits and sci-fi kits. And like I said, I love doing airplanes, but a lot of times the canopies drive me crazy, especially if it's like a German bomber or something like that would have a ton of little windows inside. I think masking that would be absolute misery. So I kind of stay away from those, but love looking at them. And I've done a bunch of airplanes on this channel over the years, but it's still primarily, I like armor the best. It's the thing I like to build the most. And as my favorite companies, there are so many of them right now. You've got obviously Tamiya makes a very good product that is easy to put together, because when I do this type of thing, I love painting, weathering, things like that. The modeling part, the building, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want to do something with a ridiculous number of parts anymore, especially because I do so many of them for YouTube. When you start doing those 1,200-1,300 part kits to build something that's this large, it can get a little mind-numbing after a while. So I get to the point, I can't wait when I get to the final build portion of it. I go, okay, now we can paint and do all the artistic stuff on it. Making it look like it's been out in the weather forever, things like that. So to me, I love doing their kits because just that, they're not an abundance of parts, but the detail is very high and the fit is incredible. We have Tacom is the same way. It's a touch more parts than Tamiya, but still very good quality, very good fit. Then you've got companies like Ming and Ryfield Model and Trumpeter and Hobby Boss, all very, very nice kits. But the part count starts to go up as you go. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, that you want a project, that you want to put a lot of parts into it, you might want to look into some of those. They're very, very nice. Another question I get too on model kits is, when I was walking on the tour of the store, we saw some GWH, which a lot of people were asking me what GWH is and weren't familiar with it. Especially they're cool looking boxes. They make some armor kits, a few like a motorcycle and a PAC 44, a big heavy 88 millimeter gun, but they make a lot of airplanes as well. And when I was at the store a couple days ago, I ripped into one of those kits to kind of show you what is actually involved in a GWH. We're going to show you right now. One question I get quite often is about GWH and what is that company and how good are their kits. So what I thought I'd do is just tear apart this F-15 IAF, which is the Israeli Air Force one. And basically GWH used to be called Great Wall Hobby, and it's still Great Wall Hobby, but they just changed it from that long term to just the GWH. And if you are not familiar with them, they are some absolutely beautiful, beautiful kits. So we're going to tear this one apart right now. And first of all, it is a lot of parts. And there's a very large box, as you can see right here. And there is a lot of parts inside it for this 48 scale. So let's first of all, the thing that always shocks people the most is when they see the armament inside. They come in these blister packs already. And we'll crack this open right here. And this is the way the rocket comes right out of it, or the missile, I should say, right out of the package. It's completely molded in one piece, so it's been slide molded to get all of this super detail in it. Whoops. And every time anyone looks at these inside the store, they just buy it automatically because it just looks so beautiful, just the way they do the rockets. No one's attaching the fins or any of those other things on it. I'll put this back in there. Oh, actually, there's a couple different ones in here. Slide that over. Take a look at the fuselage now, or the lower part of the fuselage, I should say. lots and lots of really intricate detail on this. At the bottom of the fuselage, let's take a look at the top now. That is all molded as one big piece right there. Got our nose cone right there. Weighted tires. Now we're going to take a look at the engines that come inside of this. Obviously you get 2 sprues of this. So as you can see, the kit offers some really, really nice detail. And also show you the turkey feathers on the back here, how these have all been molded. And also there is a whole bunch more parts in this kit, from the parts of the wing to a lot more armament. We aren't going to show you all of that stuff, but I just want to give you a general breakdown. But one thing I will show you are the decals that come in here, and there are a lot of them. That is sheet 1, and that is sheet 2. So some beautiful, very, very thin decals with every type of marking that you can imagine on it. Plus there is a little photo etch in there for the engine. And like I usually do, I'll just kind of quickly show you how the instructions are too, give you an idea. Now, I've seen some of these built up, because like I said earlier, these are not new kits by any means. They've been out for a few years now, but they are absolutely gorgeous. Lots and lots of parts. So if you're looking for a really detailed project right now, this might be the one you'd be looking for. So there's a little peek at Great Wall Hobby. The reason I did a little video on that too is even customers walking into the store are always like, where did this company come out of? And actually it's been around for a while. They're just kind of difficult to get a hold of in the United States. And once people see how nice they are inside, they're really blown away by that. So let's take a look at a couple other questions. One of them is, when did I start modeling? And when did I open my hobby store? And why did I open the hobby store? We can kind of blend all that together. I actually started modeling when I was about 5 years old, back in the early 70s. So you guys can guess the age right there. But started, my very first airplane that I can remember was the P-61 Black Widow with from Monogram, and painting that thing up, putting big fingerprints on the side with the glue and stuff, but having a blast doing it. Built it at my grandmother's house with my uncle, who was just a few years older than me. Actually about 9 years older than me, but old enough that he could build the model up with me. And we just flew it around in there. And eventually when I got a little bit older, I would build the models up, and I have to say, we'd usually light them on fire or blow them up with firecrackers or shoot them with wrist rockets, things like that. You know, things you do when you're a kid. One thing I loved to do as a kid was we would get like the PT-109 boat and fill the inside with foam, and then buy the little tiny motors that you could get at Radio Shack when Radio Shack was a thing, and then the prop off of the little Guillo's wind up airplanes, and you'd heat that up a little bit, and you'd force it onto the prop, and you'd put a little battery inside there, and it would make kind of like a airboat. And we put it into like a pond or something there, and it would start, going around the thing. And then we'd take wrist rockets and try to shoot at it and blow it up out of the water. That was always kind of fun too. But then as for the hobby shop, I had done modeling all the way through to my early teens, and then actually kind of got away from it again. And then I had owned a few other businesses in my early 20s, and I just sold a business, and I was looking for something different to do. And my brother and I had been doing some modeling again, and I thought, and this was in San Diego now, our very first store, and I was like, there was not a lot of good hobby stores around here. And I got together with my dad, and we started investigating. And back then, there was a business-to-business phone book in the United States, and there was no internet yet. So to find like distributors and things, you open up the business-to-business phone book and just started making some calls. And we investigated it for a couple of weeks and decided, let's go ahead and do that. So opened our very first store in El Cajon, California, back in, I want to say like 94 it was, and they had that store for many years, and then cost of living got crazy in California, and we decided to move out to Arizona, Phoenix, and then eventually Glendale. And back in early 04, we opened up Andy's Hobby headquarters in Glendale, and of course we just did the big expansion. I was going to tease and say bad timing with all that's happening in there, but no, very, very happy that we expanded the store. So much more product we can do in there. And that was kind of so it was kind of like a fluke. I was looking for something different to do, and had always modeled all that time early on in my life and loved it, and very glad I got back into it. Okay, the next question I get a lot about is paint and what my favorite paints are, and a few other questions that will kind of blend all these into one little subject here. First of all, favorite paints. Tamiya is excellent paint. Obviously, I use it quite often. Mission Models is my other favorite paint in the sense that I love the amount of colors they have. It is so nice that when you want to paint a certain model, most of the time the colors that I need are right there. They're ready to go. I also like Mission Models. They're acrylics. They're very low odor. You can paint them in my store, which is very nice, and they go on very, very thin. And when you're doing, like when we did this KV1, we did the black and white coat underneath it there. It's nice that you can put some light coats on and still see the black and white coat underneath, where some paints are so dense that you lay them on and it just covers everything that you did already. So Mission, because of the colors and the way the paint goes on, are excellent. And also my other third favorite, I would have to say, would be Real Colors by AK, and they are an acrylic lacquer, so they are a little bit more difficult to use in the sense that they you can't clean them out of the airbrush very easily just with like water like you can with Tamiya and Mission Models, but you can use lacquer thinner to get them out. So it's a little bit of a smell issue, which I can't always do inside my store, but they go on beautiful. So top three paints, those would have to be those right there. There's all kinds of other great paints out on the market, and my whole thing has been those three work great for me. So if something's working for me, there's not really much of a need for myself to go out and try a bunch of new things if I've got this one down right there, rather than relearning how to use a whole nother type of paint. Now, the other question we get a lot too when it comes to painting are dealing with airbrushes. My favorite airbrush happens to be the Iwata. I think Iwata makes an excellent brush, and there again, Pache, Badger, Harder and Steenbeck, all of those companies make excellent brushes, but the Iwata has worked for me for so long, why would I change it on it? And it's just a great quality brush. I know the ins and outs on it. I do use the Tamiya brushes, from which I understand too are also made by Iwata, so it's like one and the same type brush. So that's my favorite brush. And then the third question we get that's all blending in with this is, what if I don't have an airbrush? What's a good way of doing it? Well, there's some really great spray cans on the market, especially Tamiya. Tamiya makes a wide variety of colors, and their spray cans work incredibly well. In fact, anytime I do model cars or motorcycles, you usually notice that I use their spray cans because their glosses come out really nice. No cleanup. You just spray them. And as long as you heat the can up ever so slightly, if it's a cold day, what you do with that is you take a little pan of warm water, not boiling or anything, and put the can. You want to heat the can up slightly, and the paint will flow a lot nicer out of there. And Tamiya's right out of the can are great. There are also ways of using hand brushing, and people want me to do videos on that in the past, and it's just tough because I'm so used to airbrushing everything. But to give you a couple of examples on it, you can add a little extra thinner and a little bit of paint retarder. The paint retarder is going to drastically slow down the way acrylic paints dry. And that's the biggest problem with hand brushing acrylic paints, are that they dry so fast that you're either like with Tamiya, that you'll brush it on, you go back over, before you think it's still wet, you end up pulling it up because it's already started to dry and it makes a mess. But if you use paint retarder in it, it'll slow the drying down, where it sometimes takes 5 to 10 minutes for it to fully dry, and it'll self-level, and it'll also be able to, you know, go over a lot of different areas. So paint retarder is the biggest secret if you're going to be doing a lot of hand brushing. And if it's a big body, like I said, go ahead with the spray cans. And a couple other questions we get about are tools. And what's a basic toolkit that a beginning modeler could use without having to go too crazy and buying a million different things? And I know a lot of you guys that watch the channel, I've been modeling for a long time and probably have buckets full of tools. But if you're just starting off, some basic tools I would recommend, first and foremost, get a nice pair of sprue cutters. Sprue cutters are going to help tremendously getting the part off the sprue. You don't want to bend it and break it off, and you don't want to use an X-Acto knife, because a lot of times if you're carving with the X-Acto knife, you can end up carving into the part and taking part of the part off. So definitely don't want to use that. You do want to have an X-Acto knife for other things, but sprue cutters, best way to get the parts off the tree. So sprue cutters, an X-Acto knife is very handy, a nice pair of angled tweezers. So unfortunately I don't have a pair of them right here in front of me, but tweezers that go out and then the very tip bends down, which you guys have seen me build with a million times. They are so helpful for getting the parts into the right area. Some sanding sticks are very, very helpful, so if you have any little burrs on anything that you want to take off, sanding stick is the way to go. And also glue. Obviously you're going to need glue for sure on that, but those are the basics that you're going to need as a toolkit. And along the line with tools, I get the question often is how to get the parts off of a photo etch fret. And the best way to do that is you're going to need to put that photo etch on as hard a surface as possible. Glass is great for that. I use a brand new number 11 X-Acto knife and just cut it. And if it does leave a little tiny burr, a sanding stick will take it right down, as long as you hold it really tight with those angled tweezers so you don't bend the photo etch, and just hit it with the sanding stick and you'll knock that burr off and you'll have a perfect piece of photo etch. A couple other quick questions. First of all, this is kind of a funny question, but I have gotten this question. I am wearing pants. Even though I'm at home, every morning, still get up, get ready, take a shower, put on my Andy's Hobby Headquarters shirt just as if I was going to work, kind of for my own peace of mind to keep me sane, keeping my routine thing. So I am wearing pants. Also, I'm getting a lot of questions about andyshhq.com when it's going worldwide. And it's been delayed slightly because of all the stuff that's happening, but it is going to happen fairly soon. That right now, it's only available in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, but it is going to go worldwide very, very soon. So just keep patient on that. And I know it'd be great if we could have done it right now, but it's just the logistics and things are just really, really tough. And as for upcoming videos, I am beginning to work on that Takom Polish PLL-01 tank, that sci-fi looking thing, that prototype tank we showed you earlier in the week. I have started cutting the parts off of that. We'll be working on that during the week. Also, we'll be doing some kind of sci-fi with it. Maybe not crazy, but something that one viewer commented on, that I should paint it like maybe like a gray with like a stripe of some kind, of like a blue or orange stripe, something to really set it off. Like, it's the future. We don't need to have camouflage or anything type thing, but we might do something like that. But we'll talk about camouflaging it or painting it later on, I should say. That's it, guys. I know it's a crazy time right now, and it can get boring at home, and I hope you're enjoying these videos, something to kind of break up the day. I know it's helping me out, keeping me sane, doing them for you. And we will all get through this here. There is a silver lining on the other side. I definitely know that. So, hey, I want to thank you guys as always for watching. And please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.